Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming here on a Saturday night to listen to a legal discussion. Um, when we were discussing what topics we should keep for today's seminar, I think this was one topic which we all unanimously agreed was a very important topic because the number of divorce cases are just increasing, unfortunately, in India. And I don't know if it's the case with all lawyers, but I get invited to a wedding maybe once or twice in a month. But हफ्ते में एक divorce case तो आ ही जाता है. So I don't take up divorce.
Very true.
I don't take up divorce cases. So I have to pass it on to the experts, to Adisha and Manjunath sir. And thank you so much, both of you, for taking out the time to come here today and to share your expertise with us. Before we get into the legal discussion, I just want to ask both of you, what is your opinion, because you deal with these cases day in and day out. Why do you think this increase in divorce cases is happening in India? What is the cause behind it?
I think one of the first reason is that the synchronicity of a marriage is gone. You know, it's today, it's just like one partnership deal. You know, ಒಂದು ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಏನಡ ಆಪುಜಿ ಬೇತೆ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ you know, like times have changed in those aspects. ಎಂಕುಲ್ ಕಿಂಜೊಪ್ಪನಾಗ ಎಂಗಳ ಒಂಜೆ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇತ್ತು ಲೈಫ್ ಬಾಯ್, you know, I life away boy ಇತ್ತು ಆನಕ. So now your brands, you know, every shower of yours is a different, you know, brand. So that's how even marriage is being treated nowadays. So one is the most important thing is the sanctity. The second, in fact, it's very sad that yan inimota family court to yale court undu. So there are 7 courts. Yan inimota potinai prati court to yan potina onji setranagalna case unde undo. So it's very sad to see Shetties, you know, washing their dirty linen in public. And I think that is also because there's lack of adjustments between, you know, the couples. What do you think?
Yeah, I believe that also, like Manjunath sir is very correct in what he has said. But the stigma around divorce in the last few years has changed a lot. People do believe that now there is a chance where it's not going to be looked down upon. And if you're in a bad situation, you can end your suffering and get out of it. But also we need to, I believe as our community is so deep-rooted, we believe we must ensure that we have tried all other avenues before we go towards ending the relationship is what I think we should emphasize on today. And that is what we are going to try and see if there's what way we can help our community to not go through the route, and even if we have to, it has to be in a more respectable manner.
Yeah, I would also like to add a few things over here. One is, you know, in the year 1992, there was a study by IIM students. It's a book called Crossroads of Culture, where they had actually said that why India will go through a major divorce, you know, in the future. And one of the main reasons, which is very interesting, is that in every household, there is a controller and a nurturer. And generally, the man was the controller and the mother was the nurturer. Controller pannaga means not just, you know, strict father, but if the child came home and said ki mummy engel picnic porandu, mom will say theek hai sur papa barat papa da ken lavanadu. Then if that is going to get lost in that book they had predicted, that's when divorces will happen. So, you know, in Shetty's dumbu inko mata hotel dagulu papa illag banna gante 11 17 apna adak whole appeda ladanal pare time undu. You know, there was no time to fight also. But father was the, you know, the boss of the house. Okay, he respected the wife, he respected, you know, the children, everyone for whatever their, you know, individuality was. But unfortunately, as the power struggle started, there are more and more divorces that are happening.
I think today when some married couples are going to go home, they're going to have a debate whether who's the controller and who's
But I think
the
we've
nurturer
reached
in
that
that
age
relationship.
where, you
Yeah.
know, balance is key. Because we have fathers who are over-involved in children's life as well. And we have wives who are going out and working as well as providing. So that they need to hit that right balance is what we need to adapt towards to have a better understanding between the partners. That's where the key is.
And what are the main grounds or the most common grounds you see for a divorce? Because I was watching a video on Instagram of one court proceeding and the husband had filed for divorce because the wife had a cat, and at night when he used to sleep, that cat used to come and attack him. And the wife was not willing to give up the cat. She said, I'll give up my husband, but I will not give up my cat. And they put a photo of that cat in the divorce petition, and that husband's lawyer is showing, देखो, this is the culprit. And the judge is also interested. अरे ये बिल्ली वाला केस है क्या? दिखाओ दिखाओ file दिखाओ. So this is of course one of the more weirder and rare ones, but there are of course much more serious and much more common grounds. So which are the grounds that you come across?
See, prior to actually saying anything, I want to state that Disha and I both are coming with the same viewpoint that we are not here to promote divorce. We are, like how she said earlier, this is a platform where there are marriages taking place. Okay, so we are not here to promote divorce. But what the reasons for divorce, I mean, therefore don't go back home and again discuss, is that a reason for me to divorce? Okay, the most common reasons is cruelty. Okay, cruelty is the most common thing, and cruelty can be in any form. It could be financial cruelty, emotional cruelty, physical cruelty. So all these are grounds for, most common grounds for divorce. And it's so sad that sometimes there is no cruelty, but they will still make up a case for cruelty. So cruelty is one. The second is that, infidelity, in case if you're having an extramarital relationship, so that is another cause of divorce. So, don't let it out at home. If you have a spouse and a spice, then make sure the spice doesn't enter the house. Otherwise, that's how the lawyers will really earn. And then desertion. If he leaves her, that's another ground for divorce. These are the three most common grounds for divorce. Then there are 7, kind of grounds for divorce. But out of these are the 3 most common causes. And if there is no cause, like how I said, the lawyer will still say, no, undu bareka. So they make that as a ground.
So we sometimes come up with the grounds even when they don't exist.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
The cat one would be a cruelty one, you know.
yeah.
Correct. But are the grounds the same for men and women, or do women have more grounds for a divorce, or do men have more grounds for a divorce?
Yeah, unfortunately, women have more grounds for divorce. Okay.
Can you just give some examples, some illustrations?
So one is if the husband has been arrested on a very serious crime like rape, bestiality, or murder. So that is one of the grounds. The other one is extramarital affair. So these are the 2 major grounds. There are another, long list of that. For example, maintenance is not paid after the restitution of conjugal rights. So they're all very technical, but these are the 2 most common.
So most of the grounds are very common. These are the additional ones which are there exclusively for women, which sir has already elaborated. Otherwise, cruelty, desertion is common to both the parties.
And is there a time limit? Let's say like this cat incident, it scratches you today. Do I have to file for cruelty if I want to file for divorce? Can I do it? Do I have to do it in 1 month, 3 years, 10 years? Or how much time do I have? What is the time limit?
So as India also is very cultural, it believes that marriage should be given sufficient time before you take the decision to end it. So the requirement to file a petition before the family court, you need to at least wait for a period of 1 year. Unless there are these extreme circumstances that you can show to the court that, this has happened and I cannot live in these circumstances anymore, I cannot make any attempt. And if the court believes you, the court will grant you. Otherwise, the basic minimum requirement is 1 year at least.
So is it 1 year also when both the parties want a divorce, when both husband and wife, both of them want it? Is it that 1 year that time also?
Yes.
Okay. And even when it's contested, it is also 1 year?
Yes. Minimum 1 year. There is no limit. I've got 3 or 4 cases of couples who are above 75 who are going for divorce. And out of which one was a Shetty and one is an Anchan.
So it's not just a problem for the younger generation. It's not a problem only for the younger generation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's, I think just a mindset that's happening.
Yeah.
Though in this particular case, both the couples were like really so nasty. They were fighting it out in court. This particular couple I was talking to you about, the man was 86 and the woman was 78. In fact, the judge, Justice Oka, actually folded his hands and said, please go home and, spend the rest of your lives sing bhajan. Okay? But both of them were yelling and arguing in court, and it's like there's a Tulutonji Gatyandu, Tettupotina Taraiga Kuridina Kumda Serdun. It, wa- it was exactly like that. Both the couples were equally bad. You couldn't know, you couldn't say which one is bad. So I'm doing that. Yeah. So let me repeat that. Tettupotina Taraiga Kuridina Kumda Serdun. So both were equally bad. ಇರೋಲ್ಲ ಸೇಮ್ ಇತ್ತಾರಗಳು ಆಲೆಕೊಡು ಬಾರಿ ಒಂದು ಏರ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇತ್ತಾರೆ ಏರ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದ್ದಾರ ಬಾರಿ ಹಂಗ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಗಳ ಪಾಪ ಎನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೋತು ಬೋದು ಬೇಕು ಆರೆ ಬಂಡೆ ನಿಂಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲ ಬೋಲೆ ಒಂದು ಅಂಚ
And these kind of cases, how long do they go on for? How long do these cases stretch? Because we all know how the legal system is, cases take years. Is it the same for divorce also? How much time does it take?
When it comes to mutual consent, it's maximum 6 months. Though now there is a Supreme Court judgment which says that you can waive off that waiting period, so you can probably get it within a month. But otherwise, if it is not mutual consent, then your waiting period, then the waiting period coming out. But if it's not for a mutual consent, then a lawyer na joke na fees ire kattondu. It can go on. I had a case in 2012 which got sorted out in 2021.
And what is the expenses one looks at in a divorce petition? Like what can the costing go up to?
I'll tell you, it's more expensive than marriage.
When
I think
it's
that's
a
the best
South Indian
takeaway.
wedding, you need to take a note of this. If it's a expensive than a South Indian.
I think that's the best takeaway for today.
Yeah.
That's the biggest reason to not divorce.
Oh, yeah.
It costs you much more heavily than a marriage. And we all know how much a marriage costs.
True.
But also if it's a mutual, it's a much easy, quick process. So that's also again a better way to approach it if you have to. That's advisable.
And since we are on the costing aspect, apart when somebody files for divorce against their spouse, what all can they ask for? Because we hear of things of people asking for a huge amount in something called maintenance or something else. So what all can somebody ask for? What is the maximum liability that somebody is looking at?
So there is alimony, obviously, which I'm sure everyone must be knowing of and every man fears of.
Still, if you can explain the concept of alimony, like it's very
So alimony is something that you can claim. There is no bifurcation that you need. It's a security that you can take for yourself as a wife for being in a marriage for several years. Obviously, for the past few years, this concept and the ideology of this has also changed in the courts. Courts la believe man peritte times change and if the wife is working, then maybe that should be considered, factored in while you're deciding the quantum. The second would be maintenance, that is you can take as a monthly money which you need for your sustenance while the court proceedings are pending. Alimony would be like a one-time final amount which you can seek from the court. The other issues would be custody and access. Also there is property which I think Manjunath sir can elaborate on. Custody and access is basically the final decision with respect to who stays with the kid after the divorce. And access is how does the other non-custodial parent get to meet the kid and how do you share the vacation, the timings, etc. So these are the four main aspects which you can approach the courts for when you go for a contested divorce.
Yeah, you can also ask for legal expenses. You get that. Accommodation, you get the same accommodation that you were, or what they call as a lifestyle that you enjoyed during your marriage period. So if you have married a girl and you're living in Bandra, then you can't buy her a flat in, Palghar. You have to buy her a flat in Bandra. And custody, generally custody as a rule, thumb rule for minor children is given to the wife. And like how she said, access to the father. But in circumstances where, you have a good lawyer and he proves that she's not good enough mother and he's a better father, then it goes to the thing. And unfortunately, like whatever Srini said before, you can't will a child, so that the court will decide on that. You can't ask for liabilities. I'm answering somebody's question first. So you can't say that my liability will be shared. So everything that is there in your assets can be equally shared with the wife.
There's one more thing that I hear of, Stridan, there's a concept. Can you explain that? There is something in a divorce petition, somebody asks for a Stridan.
Yeah. See, Stridan is actually any gift that the bride gets. And there's a Delhi High Court judgment which has classified Sridhan into three types. One which the wife can use for her personal, that will be given to the wife back. The second is what husband and wife both can use, that also will be given to the wife. And the third is what the wife and the whole family can use, that will go to the family. So this includes everything. I have a case of a Shetty case where, the girl was from not a well-to-do family, and the boy's mother, Mami, she said, ki namajati dalonte like to jodo and all that. So she put her jewelry, her daughter's jewelry on the bride for the wedding. And then when they went into a fight, she filed a police case and said, showed her wedding photographs and said, this is my Sridhan bol. I got her out, I got the family out of it, but the point is this, that everything that is given to her, okay, is considered as Sridhan. So that's why I'm saying it's better to stay married than being divorced.
I think Manjunath sir will emphasize
That's the
that
caveat
after every
after
discussion.
everything that at the end.
That's why I'm
That's
still
the fine
married.
print at the bottom.
That's why I'm still married for 38 years now.
Happily so.
Yeah, happily married.
That's what.
I'm saying that because my wife is sitting over here.
Can somebody also claim the wedding expenses? Because sometimes what happens when the marriage is happening, both families share equally. Sometimes maybe the entire wedding expense is borne by only the girl side. So if something like that happens, can somebody claim, those expenses which they've incurred in the wedding?
So basically, while the law is very explicit and it lays down specific sections for maintenance taxes, wedding expenses is something that has not been mentioned in any of the acts. However, if you have proofs of the payments that you've done, that is bills, etc., you can always make that as a claim and ask for refund of it, which the court will consider on its own merits.
No.
Because I'm sure if both the parties have, then the husband will also come up with some claim saying that he's paid for it.
Now, unfortunately, in our community, what happens is that Santosh Anna caterer takes everything in cash. So tomorrow you can't say 15 laksha rupai vanasgatan banadu, because where is the proof? So advisable that you do most of the expenses in white, but in check. But I'm still saying that, those who keep and maintain it are actually manifesting a divorce, So,
Yeah, it's actually quite
Yeah.
true if you think of it.
yeah. I had a case of a man, he was again 70 plus, and it's unbelievable because he had a book for the past 45 years of all the expenses he's done for his wife and his children. I mean, it was shocking. And then obviously he's manifested it.
Just asking for a friend, not for myself. But can men also claim maintenance from the wife?
Oh yes.
Oh.
For those who don't know, even you can claim even men can claim maintenance as long as you prove to the court that your wife has got a better income than.
Thank you.
Also show that you're not able to work for yourself. That's a requirement.
But it's very difficult because I'll tell you, there is a Supreme Court judgment where the judge mentioned that where the wife had filed for maintenance and he said, I can't afford it. And the Supreme Court made a statement saying, even if you're a beggar, then beg more.
Yeah, these are actually wordings of a judge. Beg, borrow, steal, but pay your wife.
Yeah, if you're a beggar, beg more.
And this maintenance amount, is it that once it's passed by the court, I have to pay, let's say, 50,000 per month? Is it a lifetime thing, or does it stop at a certain point, or till I die, I still have to keep paying it? Or after dying, do I still have to keep paying it?
See, actually earlier it used to be very vague in terms of maintenance, and then finally, recently there was a judgment by the Supreme Court, Rajneesh versus Neha judgment, where now the court insists that both the parties will file their affidavit on the assets and liabilities. And based on that, the wife gets a percentage. Normally the thumb rule that the Supreme Court has decided, it was earlier 50%, then now it's come down to 33%. Okay, so 33% of the income of the husband will go to the wife. Now that has to be paid as long as she is living or you're living. Okay?
Even if she remarries, what?
Now, I'll come to that. Until and unless she remarries, or you go to the court and prove that she is not, you know, of good character. So on that ground also you can get it cancelled. And that's a very difficult thing to prove. You know, because privacy laws in India are so strict. So if the lady is going into a hotel, the maximum you can do is click a photograph when she's entering the hotel. After that you can't do anything. You know, even if you have that evidence, it's not admissible in court.
So is there a formula as to how that amount is calculated? Because one client had come to me saying that, you know, the family court directed him to pay maintenance, but that maintenance amount was about 90% of his salary. So is there some logic? Is there a limit? Because people come to the court asking for anything, but what the court grants is there a limit to that?
So Rajneesh versus Neha, like sir already said, it's a very detailed, about I think 15, 20-page affidavit, which is required to be filed by both the parties. This affidavit will have your ITR for the last 3 years, and even at the time of your marriage, or bank statements for the last 3 years, details of your liabilities as well as your asset. The court will give you a sufficient opportunity to make sure that you put it on a record ki, yeah, niyat neeru dulle, and how much money I have. So basis that, and the wife will also have to file all of this. So it will be very important that you make sure that even if she is not filed, you can put documents which you have in your record. So the court can come to a proper conclusion when they see both these financial documents. So that's become the thumb rule right now, which is going and prevailing in courts, that this affidavit has become mandatory.
Now, when it comes to maintenance, or, you know, a woman has, under 3 acts, she can claim maintenance. So she can claim in the family court, she can claim under the Domestic Violence Act, she can claim maintenance, and she can claim maintenance under CRPC 144 now. It was 125 earlier, now under the new BNSS Act, it is 144. So under these 3 acts, you can claim maintenance. But unfortunately, what happens is that these magistrate courts, they come from Nanded, you know, small towns. So I had a case where that guy was earning an income of 5 lakh rupees, and I claimed 1.5 lakh as maintenance, and the judge was, magistrate was shocked. He said, "काय बोलते साहेब तुम्ही? 1.5 लाख रुपये काय करायचं आहे त्यांना? 1.5 लाख मध्ये काय करणार काय?" I said, "Sir, this is the cost in Bombay." I said, "My client is not being given a free house or a car, or electricity bill is paid and water bill is paid." Then he said me, "तुम्ही काय मला dose देते?" Because he gets everything free. So his, you know, standard is like 15,000 rupees. Then finally, when we went up till we went to an appeal, and then finally when we went to the High Court, you know, he got 2 lakh, she got 2 lakh rupees. But unfortunately, at a lower courts, it's very difficult to stress 33%.
And then what are the options in such cases where there is an order for maintenance to be paid or stridhan to be returned or whatever it is, but a person is not complying? Let's say the husband is not complying with the order. Then what are the options that the wife would have?
Then under section 144, subsection 3, okay, you can file for a distress warrant.
What is that? If you
So,
just-
so a distress warrant is where the police will come and take away all those, attach all those stuff, and then later on it is sold, and then that thing. But there are some guys who are very smart. There's a Shetty case I have where the guy's got nothing.
Actually, what nothing was showing on paper that he's got
Nothing on paper,
No
there
cash
is
payments,
nothing. So the cop is telling me, "Yes, साहेब काय करायचं आता काय? त्यांचं फक्त शर्ट पॅन्ट आहे, ते काय किती घेणार आहे ना?" Everything is in the father-in-law's name.
Okay, that's the catch.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are, in the Hindu Marriage Act also, once you have an order in your favor, you can file for execution proceedings separately. Once after distress warrant, the courts will also, if they find reason that he's evading, they can even issue arrest warrant.
Arrest warrant.
But the court will give you multiple opportunities to make do. Say that I'll make some part payment, something. The court will give you those opportunities. But if you fail to do that, then the court is also has to compel and take such drastic steps.
Then you have to also go, see the higher courts actually get it implemented. But it's a long process to go up to High Court, Supreme Court.
And what if one person has filed for divorce and the other person does not want to actually get a divorce? So what are the options available to that person who doesn't want to get a divorce?
So, apart from seeking divorce under the law, you also have a concept called restitution of conjugal rights. Basically, where you're asking the court that I want to continue with this marriage, so please direct him to be with me because I want to make this marriage work. Obviously, when you speak of it practically today, you can't force a person to be with you if he does not want to be with you. But then we have this provision in law and it becomes an order in paper. What I think we could advise is that there is our Nyaya Mandali which is there, where you could approach with your relatives or just the couple can also approach and see if there is something that's resolvable, whether we can go to some counselors, because there are several other things which are there. There are family counseling professionals who are there to help you out. Manjunath sir is one of them. I know of him he's helped couples who come to him and they've decided to get back together and make it work. So, we have such people in our community who can help you with these things. And that is what the objective of this panel today is also, that we try and push to see that there are these professional things that are there. So please approach those before you go and approach the courts.
Yeah, I'd like to add also here, it's like if one couple wants a divorce, a Kurunji divorce Burchinda, it is exactly like, having cancer in your hand, suppose. Now, you can't live with it because, in fact, last week this lady was crying, saying that I want my husband back, I am for the husband. And the judge, courtroom number 4, he loves to give speeches. So he was telling her, he says that what is the use? Because even if I order him, which is not possible, to take you back, he will keep you at home, and Budidi lekka apai, matlab Budidi apujai, So what is the use of you keeping, going back? So in my opinion, if one person wants the divorce, okay, then it's like cancer in your hand. But when you have cancer in the hand, you don't go and say, doctor, ye haath kaat dalo mera. You first look at, some therapies, chemotherapy, so and so. If not, then you run to an Ayurvedic doctor, you run to a homeopathic doctor, you go to your Bhuta, Kola, Ye, Wo and all that. And then after that, when anything is not possible and it's going to spread, that's when you decide to cut. So similarly, when you have a dispute like this, court is not the first option. Nyaya Mandali is there, the Bansanga, and it's always, advantageous to come to a community place, because unfortunately what happens is that Shetties, they don't use Shetty lawyers. It's a very sad thing. I know of a case where that man first asked me a question, ki inchincha anda budidi oni ponnu inchincha maltanda yena apunna and all that. So I told him. Then after 6 months he came to me again and he said ki ink ninonji pattarandu matra eralla panachi. So I said irna magalna visheda. Nikincha gottun. Are the whole world knows. But he thinks that nobody knows. So that's what they believe, that if you go to a Shetty lawyer, matra ella gottapun. It does not matter. First of all, every lawyer is a professional. And he will not, I don't even share with my wife cases, or names. But she's also an LLM graduate, so therefore we discuss. But no names, nothing is mentioned. That's the kind of confidentiality every lawyer has. So divorce is not the first option. Come to the Nyaya Mandali, find out what is the reason, because many a times lack of communication could be a reason. Many a times the in-laws could be a problem. The Jokul Mata, they call them old furnitures. Old furniture. So the old furniture could be a problem. Then either the old furniture decides to move out, So that is not the last option. If one of them wants a divorce, the other doesn't want, then try various methods, like how she said, there are professional counselors also for this.
What you said is absolutely right about not people hesitating to use the lawyers in their own community because they are afraid that the news will spread. But of course, gossip has its own place and professionalism has its own place.
Yeah.
And even if I have a family matter, I'm fully confident I can come to one of the two of you, and you will not even tell your own spouses or your daughters or your parents, even if they're living in the same house with you. So of course, and I will always choose to come to somebody in my community because they will understand the problems better. Because nobody can understand the problems of a Tulu family better than somebody in our own community,
Yes.
right?
The comfort level is always there.
Right.
And also, I feel like there is a sense of belonging in a community, togetherness. So you are more invested in probably helping them out than having them fight in courts. So use that to your advantage and come to people within your community to probably resolve this in a better way.
And they do it with no interest. See, what happens is there's a girl and a boy, husband and wife, they're having a fight. The wife goes to the lawyer. He'll say, "Nene, tu case डालो," because case part देना है ना, वना सुन बोल दो अपने को, you know. So he will say, "नने case डालो, और हम आपको 15 lakh रुपए दिलाएगा." Like right now, there's a matter going on in the family court where the lady is asking for 1,000 crores. You know that case is going on in the, yeah, 1,000 crores. Now the husband has finally come up to 500 crores, but she says no, 1,000 crores. So because why? Even a lawyer is instigating her, "नहीं हम दिलाएगा तुमको." But when you come to a counselor, when you come to the Nyaya Mandali, they don't have an interest. You know, they don't make any money out of it. The interest is that you join together and see what is the way to solve it. So that is always the best route first.
I think this 1,000 crores and everything is very inspired from Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates. From all these incidents, I think people are just getting
No, I
inspired.
think Hrithik Roshan paid 482 crores.
Oh, wow.
That's what the Instagram says.
Yeah. No, no.
So where does somebody have to file for a divorce? Because let's say, because nowadays everybody is doing a destination wedding. People are having their wedding in Bali. They're coming back to, then they'll stay together married in Bombay. Then after they separate, maybe the wife will go to Delhi or Pune, wherever her hometown is. So where does one have to file the divorce case?
You can file a divorce at the place where you got married, or where you were married. You can do that, or the place where you were resided post marriage, or where you were last residing. And then now, with the with that amendment that has happened, okay, another advantage to the woman is that she can file a case where she lives. So if the girl goes and many people do it, many women do it, so they'll go temporarily and go and stay in Mangalore and file a case over there, and the poor chap is in Bombay and he has to keep running to Mangalore. So these are the...
And everything we've discussed about all these divorce-related laws, they also apply to a marriage if it's not registered.
Of course it does. So just not having your marriage registered does not make it an invalid marriage or something, as long as you've performed it as per the Hindu rites. You've had the Sat Feras. That itself constitutes as a marriage, and you can approach the courts for a legal divorce. And having it registered is not a requirement. But however, it's advisable to have your marriage registered.
Yeah, but the law also very clearly says that, I mean, it very clearly says that 7 feras you have to do, but also your local or your customs also will prevail. So for example, in Shetty's, earlier Bunts, we never had 7 feras. The Gurkara came and, you know, he would say, okay, you're getting married. Okay, even that is a valid marriage because that prevails in the community.
Once somebody gets a divorce decree, within how much time can they remarry?
If it's a mutual consent, you can go next day get married. So Sunday you can get married, Monday you can get divorced, Tuesday you get married again, Wednesday.
So out of respect, you should leave out the same day. The day you get the divorce decree, you should not do it the same day, just out of respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And if it's not a mutual consent, and if it's a contested divorce, then after the judgment comes, you have a 90-day window where you cannot marry.
Why 90 days?
Because anyone can go for an appeal.
Right, absolutely. I think we are a little bit short on time. I think this is a topic which is, I think, of a lot of interest to all of us, and I think it's a very important topic. And I think we can talk about it for hours on end with both of you. But of course, we do have to wrap up, and I don't think we'll have time for a Q&A. But I think the bottom line of this is, like you both pointed out, that the reason why we took up this topic is not because we want to promote divorce, of course. It's the other way around, in fact, that we want to say that, you know, it's a difficult process, not just legally, not just in terms of costing, but in terms of what the mental strain it causes to the couple, to the children, and also to the respective families who have to go through this. And therefore, you know, that was our purpose of doing this. And fortunately, the Bunts community is a very strong community. It's got deep-rooted values. And we have these forums like the Nyaya Mandal, and we always have these connections which can help us in actually resolving matters so that it doesn't go to that extent. So if anything you want to add in conclusion?
Yeah, I think another big sufferer in a divorce is actually not the husband and the wife. It's the children. The children are the biggest victims, and post that are the parents, because I don't think any mother or father would like to see their son or daughter divorced. So the biggest victims are the children and then the parents. So when you take this step, I think you should consider all these factors.
Disha, anything you want to add to that?
Just, I think, again, emphasizing on the same thing, like getting through a divorce is obviously a financial drain, it's mentally draining, it's emotionally draining. So it's not easy for anybody, and mutual if you have to. And otherwise, please go through our Nyaya Mandali and get the required help and make umpteen efforts and attempts to make this work before you progress to a divorce.
Why not prenups?
See, prenuptial.
I think you will need to explain prenup.
Yeah, okay,
in
what is
general,
prenup?
sir.
Prenuptial is where before the marriage, they do an agreement. Okay? So, ma'am, you can sit. So, yeah, I'll come to that. So, prenuptial is actually, in a way, recognized in India, but not for Hindus. Yeah, so in Islam, in Muslims and Christianity, prenuptials is there. Special Marriage Act also, but in the Hindu law, prenuptials is not currently accepted, mainly because the court is very clear that Hindu marriage is not an agreement. Hindu marriage is a sacrosanct relationship. Therefore, you cannot have a prenuptial. So that is very clear in many judgments that the court has said. Okay, and therefore it is still not kind of accepted in India. Yeah. Yeah, 498A. That's under IPC. Yeah. No, the 498 earlier was a non-bailable offense, okay? But now the Supreme Court has realized that, these women also are taking advantage of the act. So, Supreme Court has finally woken up. And in fact, there is a whole association of married battered men, okay? Because they are all victims of these acts. So now the Supreme Court has very clearly said that no arrest will happen under 498A until and unless it is investigated and the investigating officer says that it is an offense. So you cannot be arrested immediately. And also, the Supreme Court has also seen, because there are many cases where the husband and wife are living together, the in-laws are living in Udupi, sister-in-law is living in Bangalore, they are all part of the 498A. Just because they want them to be arrested. Yeah, in America also, yeah.
Once an FIR is done, you can always proceed for quashing, and if the
Yeah.
court finds merit that people have been just added for harassment, the court will quash it against them, especially. And this is becoming a norm in the high courts now, where they are seeing that parents and in-laws, etc., are being unnecessarily harassed by adding them in the FIRs. So courts are looking into the patterns and reforming and changing their approach with time.
In fact, the worst thing is where, right now I have a case where because of a marital dispute, that man has got a daughter and a son, small children, and the wife has put a POXO case against the father. So, fortunately, I mean, we made sure he didn't get arrested, but that was the case.
We've got time constraints. It's an interesting topic, but
Yeah. If
again,
anybody has any more questions, of course, Disha and Manjunath sir are both available.
I think Vikrant, but
You
we've
can
got time
discuss them.
constraints.
Yeah.
We'll pass over the questions to dinner or drinks.
Exactly what I was saying, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.